Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Ari Talks About Music. I'm Ari, and today I'll be reviewing the new Florence and the Machine album, Everybody Scream. Everybody Scream is the sixth album from the British pop and rock band Florence and the Machine, and one that definitely, at least for me, did come highly anticipated given how well the band has been doing in recent years. Not that that's to say the band was ever really doing badly, given that I do genuinely think that they are one of the best and most consistent rock bands on the scene right now, having released many absolutely fantastic albums over the last few years that I've absolutely loved. And it really does seem like with Everybody Scream that there's no sign of them really slowing down. I will say that I did find their previous album Dance Fever to be just a little bit subpar, but to be honest, there are still so many fantastic songs and moments on that album that I was not at all worried about what the future of the band's sound would look like. And I'm very glad to see that my lack of worry was completely justified, given that the evidence is right here in just how good Everybody Scream actually is. You still have everything that you would really want out of a classic sounding Florence the Machine album, from the epic orchestral arrangements to absolutely anthemic vocals on nearly every song, which is exactly how the album opens with the title track, which I just love for being so punchy and anthemic, and as the title of the song would have you suggest, features some absolutely fantastic screaming from Florence Welch. And then I of course absolutely love the orchestral elements to this song as well, which in typical Florence and the Machine fashion just give this song such an epic and grand atmosphere. And then on One of the Greats, this song does feature a much slower and more linear progression as opposed to the more immediate punchiness of the opening song. And I do love that about this song, given that I do generally find that that style of progression is just more well suited to the kind of music that they make, given that the atmosphere and the vibe is just slowly building to something much more epic than what it starts. And then of course towards the end, the way Florence Welch delivers such incredibly passionate vocals is again just something I absolutely love about this style of progression that they do quite often. After that, I think that Witch Dance is maybe just a little bit of a startling sound change, especially after such an epic, atmospheric, and in a way almost operatic song. The much faster tempo and more percussion-focused sound I think switches things up in a way that I find just be a little bit unnatural. The transition aside, I still think this is an absolutely fantastic song, first off with just how good the bass line is, and just how much tension it's able to create with that, and it's being used incredibly well. And then of course on moments like the chorus and the bridge, you have a return to that much more epic and anthemic vocal style, and are definitely some of my absolute favourite moments on this song. Sympathy Magic, I think, then is also a reasonably unique song with some slightly less conventional instruments in the mix, but still of course having that amazing Florence and the Machine type of atmosphere, just with obviously how epic and anthemic the vocals are, and it still overall does manage to be still quite a standout song on the album. I absolutely love the more acoustic guitar kind of style you have on Perfume and Milk, being quite a refreshing style for the kind of thing you're used to hearing at this point on the album, but still being pulled off and performed so well. But of course the much more acoustic and stripped back focus of this song will absolutely never stop Florence Welch from delivering such amazing and anthemic vocals as usual. And her voice is just so beautifully powerful on this song that it really does feel like it carries the whole thing despite how good the guitar playing actually still is. Although it does actually get to the point where it feels like the guitar is kind of just there more for atmosphere than anything, given how much power her voice has over the whole song. And then on Buckle you have another really nice little acoustic song, although this time the vocals are definitely a lot less of the focus. And I do still find the singing to be reasonably good on this song, obviously, but I think that just because it's less of a massive focus, it leaves the song feeling quite empty, I do find, given that there's just, I think, a lack of power and passion in her voice, and the guitar playing, again, is kind of just there for atmosphere. And I think it just leaves the song feeling quite flat, given that there's not really anything that's meant to be like the big focal point of the song, as it does just feel like that every element is just kind of there for atmosphere more than anything. And then I think that Kraken just does a fantastic job at transitioning the album out of the more acoustic focused style and straight back into the typical Florence and the Machine epicness. I do actually really enjoy just how brief and sudden the chorus is on this song, as it not only manages to gently bring the album back into that kind of style, but then also just makes you appreciate the moment while it's there, as there really is a lot to be said for how well written and performed this song is. And then I do also love the way it's explored in a lot more detail towards the end of the song too. I really love how the piano is the driving instrument on The Old Religion, almost making you believe that it's going to be another acoustic song, but manages to add so much depth to the sound, still with the piano being most of what the song focuses on. But then towards the end of the song, despite how simple it can feel, there is still an insane amount of depth to the sound, and then it does eventually show itself right at the end to actually be one of the most anthemic and progressive songs that the album has to offer. Drink Deep has this really cool edge to it, and I do actually really like how dark it sounds. And as much much as I do still really admire how much slower and moodier this song is, I find that overall it's maybe just a little bit too repetitive and quite boring for my liking in some parts. Just given that it does kind of do the same thing over and over again and doesn't really change that much about what it's doing at any point. The vocals on this track are, of course, still really good. However, again, just the repetition does become a problem when trying to enjoy the song, even on that level. And even then, just given the lack of vocal diversity on this song, I think it definitely does show how Florence Welch's talent is absolutely being underutilized on this entire song. Music by Men has to absolutely be my favorite acoustic song on the album. Not only is the vocal performance on this song absolutely fantastic, but the guitar work as well, I think, is absolutely the best of the three main acoustic tracks. The very subtle piano as well is such a huge part of this song's atmosphere, and is not something you might notice the first couple of times you listen to it, but it's something that I appreciate so much that this song has, as it's just such a huge part of why I love this song's atmosphere, as well as just giving it so much more depth and progression as well. And then I think that You Can Have It All builds absolutely perfectly on that atmosphere, as it opens with a super moody and melancholic vibe, but already it's building an incredible amount of tension just in the opening few minutes. And while it does kind of just go around in circles a little bit, I love how much tension it's building every single time it goes round, before what is just absolutely, I think, the single best climax on the album, and genuinely one of the best moments in the entire Florence and the Machine discography when the chorus really kicks in, being absolutely one of the most satisfying releases they've ever done, being right at the end of the album, as well as they also deliver one of the absolute best hook lines I've ever heard them do. It really in every way does make this song a perfect one to have so near the end of such an intense album. And then after that, just as you think this song has shown everything it has to offer, the second climax at the end of the song is just even bigger, even better, and just I don't even know where to begin with describing all of the insane epicness that's happening on this one. Finally, you have the closing song, And Love, which I think is just a really nice, low-key album closer. I do just love this song for its simplicity, which I think is a necessary come-down to have tagged on the end like that after such an intense track before it. And just a small little detail about this song that I absolutely love has to be the use of the harp, being just such a small little thing that the song has, but the way it fades out and you have the harp solo towards the end, I think is absolutely amazing, and it does just make me wish that it's an instrument that was just a little bit more present on the rest of the album. And so I really do think that just those last three songs are possibly the best closing three tracks on any Florence and the Machine album. And even the album as a whole is still absolutely fantastic overall. It has so many incredible and unique moments to offer. And so I'm just so glad to see Florence and the Machine release such a fantastic album after their previous one was just a little bit of a letdown. But given just how much talent all of them have in terms of both writing and performance, I suppose it was kind of obvious that Dance Fever was just a little bit of a one-off, and that it definitely would not take them long to get back on form, and I'm so glad to see that that is exactly what happened, which is why I'll be giving this album an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this review. Please be sure to listen to this album yourself and tell me your thoughts below. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and please leave a dislike if you didn't like the video, and remember to stay hydrated.